Conducting a successful intake interview is crucial as it sets the tone for future sessions with the counselee. While pastoral counseling is not clinical in nature, certain aspects of the broader field of clinical therapy are very helpful in creating a healthy pastoral counseling environment. Over the next 10 minutes, we will discuss the importance of 4 critical components to consider while conducting an intake interview. Those 4 components involve the initial interaction, the importance of building trust, obtaining current information, and then explaining general expectations. You don't need to memorize those right now. We will be traveling back through them together. This instructional video is being offered with the desire to help train and encourage you as you seek to accomplish a skillful, thorough, and thoughtful intake interview. Prior to meeting with the counselee, it would be really helpful to consider an intake information form that can be filled out online or in person regarding the counselee. In clinical therapy, an intake form is a non-negotiable. Pastoral counseling is, on the other hand, a little more relational in nature. It might be more organic to simply meet for the first time face-to-face without much prior information received. If you do construct one, keep in mind that the information form does not need to be extremely thorough, but it could offer the opportunity for data such as name, age, family information, general Christian testimony, emergency contact, and whether the counselee has had any prior experiences in a counseling setting that they would like to mention. You could also leave a little extra space for them to fill in any additional information that they would like to share with you. One benefit of this kind of background information is that it will enable you, the counselor, to engage the intake interview with greater confidence. This first section of the intake interview will most likely last around 5 minutes, so do your best to be well prepared. Be sure to be clear of clutter both in your mind and in your office. As they say, you never get a second chance to make a first impression. Let's talk about the initial interaction. When the counselee arrives, it's important to have a demeanor that combines both confidence and empathy. The alchemy of these two things working together will create a very winsome environment to help usher in a positive interaction. When meeting the counselee for the first time, introduce yourself, say hello, extend your hand to shake theirs, and introduce yourself in the manner that you want to be addressed. Hello, I'm Brent, or hi, I'm Pastor Brent. Helping steer the counselee this way will put them at ease, as they will immediately know what to call you, not fearing disrespect in some unforeseen way. As you extend your hand to shake theirs, call them by their name and tell them it's nice to meet them. It's very nice to meet you, Jeff. At the same time, double check that you are addressing them by their correct or their desired name. After showing them to their seat, sitting down together, begin the time by acknowledging the clock. The counselee will need to be assured that this meeting has both a specific purpose and a specific ending. It would be wise to mention how much time you'll be spending together. For example, for this initial meeting, we'll be spending about an hour together. Our ongoing times together, however, will typically last 45 minutes. To ensure that all elements of the initial intake interview can take place, it's best to steer clear of small talk. While some small talk might be necessary to create a sense of ease, it is essential to immediately convey that you, as the counselor, will keep things on course. The final step of this first phase is to give a brief verbal outline of the meeting that will be taking place. The counselee must clearly understand the purpose and the primary objectives of the intake interview, as well as your openness to any questions that they might have about your time together. The second portion of this intake interview will focus on trust-building questions that will allow for an immediate connection between the counselor and the counselee. Trust-building questions will help dismantle any preconceived ideas that may be in the mind of the counselee. For example, they might have had a poor prior experience with a counselor who lacked empathy. This might cause them to think and speak robotically instead of from the heart. The overarching hope of these questions is that a genuine connection could be made. To keep the conversation flowing, the counselor should pay special attention to not asking questions that will elicit a simple yes or no response. So it's best accomplished by asking questions in the who, what, when, where, why, and how categories. As an example, instead of asking a question like, "Are there people in your life that you deeply respect?" try asking, "Who is a person in your life that you deeply respect?" Keep in mind that this portion of the interview is more than just a get-to-know-you time. It will represent an opportunity for the counselor to observe the inner workings of the counselee's mind and heart. This portion of the interview should only last 10 to 15 minutes, so a purposeful and structured line of questioning should be considered. It'd be best to keep it to 3 to 4 simple questions. The focus should be on understanding the context of the counselee's life. Some sample questions and prompts might be, "Tell me a little more about your family," or "What do you enjoy most about your job?" or "What do you do in your free time?" Questions like these allow for simple follow-up questions to occur. During this time, do your best to spend very little time writing notes, but rather making purposeful eye contact, smiling when appropriate, and making small motions like nodding your head to communicate that you are engaged. Once a meaningful connection has been made, you can focus more attention on questions that will elicit more substantive responses from the counselee regarding their current needs. Along with the submitted information form, these initial questions will fuel future interactions with the counselee. The third phase of this initial intake interview will focus on collecting pertinent information about the counselee's current life situation, including potential hurdles and hang-ups that they might have. Some of this might have already been presented in the information form, so use that information skillfully, but there will probably be some information still waiting to be uncovered. The information that will be gathered during this portion of the interview is not meant to be shocking, but rather revealing. So at no point during this time together should the counselee feel that they're being interrogated. Once again, your demeanor should be disarming and gentle in nature. Think about how Jesus met people in critical moments. Think of his words in Matthew 11:28. He said, "Come to me, all of you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest." That's the kind of invitation that presents an opportunity for honesty and life transformation. During this time, you should be seeking to gather information that will reveal successes in their lives, as well as unveil potential hurdles that are keeping the counselee from moving from the point of being held hostage to their situation to being a victor over the problems that have held them at bay. This section of the intake interview should last 20 to 30 minutes, so create 5 to 7 predetermined questions that will really allow them to go deeper. Again, the focus on questions should not lead to yes and no responses. Why do you feel the need to be more financially content? Or what part of your marriage do you feel is going well? Or even, who in your life is an admirable example of emotional health? These questions and others like them could be great starting points for gathering information. Of course, you'll need to choose your questions wisely based on the general reason for which they are paying you a visit. Are they meeting with you about finances or relationships or emotional health or spiritual development? These are all really important areas, each needing a unique line of questioning. So be creative, be thoughtful, and focus on listening well. The final portion of your intake interview will focus on setting expectations and achievable goals for future meetings together. While this doesn't need to be very comprehensive and cover every detail regarding future meetings, it should provide a general understanding of the purpose and the plan for these sessions, and so that all parties can grasp it. You want to know what to expect. They want to know what to expect. Everything needs to be crystal clear. You'll want to leave 5 to 10 minutes at the end of this section for them to ask their specific questions on their mind, but it might be helpful for you to prime the pump by presenting some common questions and then answering them. Here are a few questions that maybe you could present and then speak into. How often will we meet? You may already have set a rhythm for when you're available for counseling. Be sure it is communicated clearly. You could say something like, I would like for us to meet weekly for 8 sessions together. My assistant will actually help us set those up based on our mutual availabilities. Here's another question that you could pose. Can I share what I'm learning with others? And if so, with whom? To be candid, they're going to do what they're going to do. But it's best to set parameters and offer advice on whether or not it would be wise to share what they're learning with anyone during the process of your sessions together. Offer your advice with humility, but be clear. Here's another question you could level and then speak into. Are my concerns typical? Now, if you've been counseling for some amount of time, you know at this point that most of the time, the answer to this question will be yes. Your concerns are common among people. As Solomon said, there's nothing new under the sun. But reassure them by saying something like, many have walked this path. Don't be afraid to walk it too. We'll take it a step at a time. Now, in the case that their concerns are not so typical, you'll want to also help release the tension in their lives by assuring them in some way, maybe saying something like, while this is a unique set of circumstances, you're not alone. There is a pathway forward, and I'm going to help you walk it out. A final question that you could consider answering before it's asked is, what's the intended outcome of our sessions together? Again, think it through, be clear, and offer distinct expectations. The less guesswork involved in their lives after this initial meeting, the better. Hey, as mentioned before, a successful intake interview is crucial as it sets the tone for future sessions with the counselee. So make this time count. Bring your absolute best to the table, and so your counselee will understand the wisdom and the compassion you're seeking to bring to the vexing issues in their lives. Thanks for taking some time to consider the importance of the intake interview. I hope these ideas are helpful to you along the way.